Alright, I'm under the Suzuki Kamikaze here. And so I was like, well, I started tracing all these wires back. There's this wheel speed sensor. The wire coming from this other wheel speed sensor was all chewed up on by rodents. And they chewed off the wiring up here. So I have to fix that. I'm like, I can fix that. I can fix this, but what are these two red wires? Well, these two red wires are supposed to connect into this wire, right? And those two red wires, actually, let me see if I can get it down here. Where did they go? Oh, shoot. Hang on. Oh, those two red wires run back here. And they come out right here. And this that was just tucked up into that subframe hole. Oh, man. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to fix that because you have to remove this exhaust drive shaft rear end to get the tank down, right? That'll have to go to a shop because this is the all-wheel drive model. But then I got to looking around and I'm like, since the rodents have been under here chewing, what else have they chewed on? Looky right there. I'll see if I can get some more light on that guy for you. They chewed that main harness all to pieces. And I can see the green and black wire are chewed. And that's a wheel speed sensor. So that main harness would need to be repaired, replaced. That comes out of the subframe rail. Or not the subframe, the unibody rail. Right? And you'd have to drop this whole rear end to get access to it. And you would break ungodly amounts of stuff taking this out. All these evap lines and purge solenoids and all this crap would just probably break. Plastic fuel lines that'll probably break. It would be an unbelievable job. So I'm gonna have to tape these wires back up and decline the repair. Because I can't drop the fuel tank and I can't drop the subframe in my little garage to get up there and get that done. That's got to go to a shop with a lift that has some wiring experience. You know, that's just what it is. It is what it is. But they've chewed completely. I mean, they've chewed the wires off on each end of that and eaten the wires. So, like a typical Mercedes, and this is a Suzuki, but it's all Mercedes wiring and electronics. The rodents love the taste of the wiring. It's also got a leak in the rear diff there. My best thing to tell him is just to drive the car with no ABS and the check engine light. Unless you want to pay somebody, you know, it's going to be thousands of dollars to drop all this down in a shop. And they're going to have to be good with fixing wiring. And even then, I mean, all the wiring is getting brittle. You can see like where this goes for that rear diff lockup. Those wires are already cracking. So all this wiring is cracked. It's going to corrode, it's going to break, and it's going to be tasty treats for mice. And you know, that would basically be more than the value of this car if you were to do it. So I took a good picture of this wiring harness for him. I'm going to tape it back up, put it on the ground, and tell him I'm not going to proceed with replacing the connector, which I have to, I was thinking it was just this connector, and I just replaced that with another connector and hooked these wires back up, and we would be set. But when I got under here and got to looking really good and got up in the air, because I had to jack it up higher to get up here to that connector, I can see we have more problems. And you can see where people have velcroed sensors and connectors or zip tied them on and tried to replace this and tried to work with the ABS before. Like, why doesn't it work? Why won't it still work? Because of that wiring harness got ate. Alright, so that rear harness is completely messed up. But I talked to the owner. He wants me to see if we can try to run some bypass wires for at least the ABS sensors. So I tracked this down. The ESP module, the extra sensory perception module, is right here, built into the ABS. And I got these wires. I don't know if you can see this or not. Let me lean you forward a little here. So I got those wires. I got them clipped out. I got these wires running back there. I just did a white and a blue and a yellow black. I have the black heat shrink on the yellow wire. So that'll be yellow and yellow black. And then blue, and this will be the blue with the black, the white one. So now I just gotta solder these up and make a neat connection, and then we'll be set. So let me get all my soldering stuff out here. And we'll turn on our soldering iron. Let that heat up for just a second. Then we gotta put heat shrink tubing on all of these, so I'll go ahead and put that on now so I don't forget later. Okay. Now I guess we just gotta kind of clip these even, which I have another piece of heat shrink tubing on that one, so I can tell that it is the black one. I'll go here. Man. There, okay. So this is our yellow with black. So it's gonna go on our yellow and black over here. Now we'll just get that soldered. What did I do with my solder? Where's my solder? As my father would call it, the sorter. Well, heat up, darn you. Keep it there. Okay, there we go. Let me clean my iron off a little. Okay, that one's soldered. Yeah, we just gotta strip this one off. We're ready to do it. Okay. That one's sorted. All right. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and put some heat shrink over these. I'm not worried up here about them getting a lot of weather or corrosion in them, so I'm not gonna put any sealant on these. This is up under the hood where it's not gonna get a lot of water. It's weird, I have to go looking around for my lighter now because I don't smoke anymore. That was one handy thing about being a smoker, is you always have a lighter handy. Okay, that does those two. Now, I'm going to do the blue to my just green wire, and my green and black is going to be the white one. And really, I just want to keep the length of that white one, clip those off. And this is going to be my green and black right there. Okay. And now we'll do our blue one to the green. That's a little too much I stripped off there. We'll trim her down. Okay. Solder that one. I want just a little more solder on this one. Okay, there we go. Now we'll slide these forward. Put these two pieces of heat shrink down on here. Those on. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready to tape up this harness and put it all back together. These I'm going to just tape up outside of there once I get this back on. Once I get it back on. There we go. Now we gotta put a zip tie around that. And clip that. All right. Okay, I'll clip that. Get that back over here. Okay. So I'm going to leave this unplugged for now, just so I don't short any of the wires out when I'm back there working. I don't think it would hurt it, but you don't want that. So, but that's where the connector goes, is right there. So now we're ready to get back there and do some wiring. All right. So I got the wires ran back here. I need to mount that up better, but it's just strapped back here. They run over here, and so this wire speed sensor was broken off, so I had to cut the connector off, solder the wires directly to it. And then I ran another piece up over here. I mounted that up out of the way of the drive shaft and fixed as much of the wiring on this side as I could and soldered those in. There's these two broken wires here, but I got these hooked up. So now we just gotta go see if it sees the wheel speed sensors, and hopefully it will, and hopefully it works. We'll see. All right, so it doesn't have any wheel speed sensor faults now. They came up, they were history codes. I cleared them, they didn't come back. Now that doesn't mean that the wheel speed sensors are working, right? That means that it now sees they're connected due to the bias voltage, right? So it sees the wheel speed sensors, that's good. So now we have this CAN communications API data is abnormal. So what in the heck does that mean? Well, I looked, I don't see anything about API data. I know on some Mercedes, I do believe the EPI is like the throttle position sensor, electronic position indicator or something like that. So my guess is it has a CAN wire that runs to the throttle body directly. That there's an error on that communication, so it can't get the throttle position to this hydraulic ABS module. So I guess we're gonna have to get the scope out, find those wires, and check them. I'm gonna go ahead and look at the wiring diagrams next and see what's going on there. But that's a current code. It comes right back if you clear it. Alright, so the first thing we're gonna do is just check all of our powers and grounds to the ABS unit. I looked them up here. We have our CAN bus high for the BCM, CAN bus high for the ECM, wheel speed sensor, a power source for the ESP, hydraulic unit control module assembly. So we'll check and make sure we got good power there. We have a ground here, 14. CAN communications low and low. And we have a ground here. So we're going to just check these powers and grounds first, and then we're going to see if we're getting a good CAN signal to the BCM and the ECM. And if we are, I don't know. I don't know what else to do about this error because it doesn't tell me what the EPI is. I can't find anything. EPI data is abnormal. So, I mean, it's a CAN communications, but is it saying that EPI data is abnormal coming from something else? Well, I don't really have anything that would indicate EPI data from the ECM, although it may be that this is just saying, hey, there is something abnormal in the ECM, so I'm setting this code and not working. And we do have that barometric pressure sensor error in the ECM. I don't know. I don't know how these Suzukis work, right? I don't know. I'm a GM guy. But we're going to at least check and make sure we have good CAN communication signal on these two and make sure our powers and grounds are good. Okay, so I've got the ABS connector off here. And it's pin 8, which is this pin right here. So we're going to count them down. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you don't want to push this all the way in there and spread the terminals. You just want to touch them. Okay, let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Yep, so we're making good contact there. Now it looked like pin 1 lit up on me too. I accidentally touched it. And pin 1 is what? Solenoid valve power supply driver. Okay, so that must be a power supply driver. This pin 1 right here too. So that lights up. So do we have any other power supplies or drivers? That pin 8. Now there's nothing there. So I'll go ahead and change this test light, the other side of the test light here, to the positive. And we'll touch it ground and make sure it lights up. It does not. Hang on. Come on. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now we're going to check our grounds, which is pin 14. And so we'll look on here. Pin 14 is one clear at the bottom on this side. Okay, that's good. And pin 38 is the other one clear at the bottom. So that one's good. Okay, so all of our powers and grounds are good to it. So now let me get the scope set up. All right, so I'm noticing once in a while when I turn off the ignition, it just doesn't want to turn off, or it doesn't want to turn on. It's acting weird. I don't know. That might be because the ABS module is unplugged, and it might not have full communication if that communication goes through it. But I also read on the forums this problem with the thing not turning off and on, and some of the people had the C10 whatever error I'm getting, and they had a bad battery. So apparently these things need really good batteries. I'm just gonna give her a test here real quick. We'll see. We'll see. It looks like a pretty new battery. State of health is 1%. State of charge is 0%. I put it on the battery charger for an hour and a half the other day. I think we might have a bad battery. And I was doing some reading on the forums, which you have to be careful about forums because it's a bunch of people that don't know anything that come out there. But somebody had this chassis error, and it was given the traction control ABS codes, the hill hold disable, which this all has, and they said it was their battery. Like, it was good enough to start the car, but they put a new battery in it and all those problems went away. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the battery charger on this again because it's been sitting a couple days off of a charge, but I'll let it charge up for a half hour or so on high, and we'll test it again. Okay, so the ignition turned off. Once I plugged that back in, it would turn on and off right. And since that has a BCM and an ECM connection going to this, my guess is the CAN bus just runs in a loop, goes to the ECM, goes to the BCM, and it communicates through those wires. So it probably couldn't communicate. But that battery, I think it's definitely bad. So I got her set on nuclear on the charger. I'll let her run here for about a half hour, and then we'll test it again and see if this battery really is bad. I'm gonna see, it doesn't look like an old battery, but it might be. And I don't see the date code on it. So we'll test that again. Okay, I've been trying to do some more reading as I could find it in different places. So apparently on the older ones, they had a separate barometric pressure sensor. On the newer ones, it's built into the ECU. And it's like, it uses some kind of a built-in sensor, and then it estimates it with the map sensor this. And see, this map sensor has been replaced. It's probably a cheapy Amazon one or something, but it's not got the overspray on it like everything else does, and it looks cleaner. So somebody's chased after this before and replaced the MAF sensor. And this has the MAF and the intake air temperature sensor built into the MAF. But the actual barometric pressure sensor is built into the ECU. And it requires replacing the ECU if it goes bad. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. And so here's the question is, this code that is getting invalid data coming from it talking to the ECU and seeing that the ECU has a check engine light, so it disables the ABS. I don't know. I can't find any good information out there on this, because Suzuki's aren't popular cars. They're not easy to find parts for, and they aren't really, they're not made anymore in the United States. There's no real information. I did pull this off, check the powers and grounds on it, and that's good. And when I pulled it off, it saw that it was not getting a signal back from the IIT or the MAF sensor. So that tells me that that sensor is working, because it can see that it's not getting anything. So, I'm coming up on I'm coming up with nothing here, man. This is why I need to stick with working on GMs, right? Because this crap you just don't know about. You know, maybe Ivan at Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics could figure it out. I don't know. Very limited service information. The diagrams, you know, you just get one big ugly diagram. And everything is numbers on here. So if you want to go like 5, then you have to go up here and click image, look for 5, MAF IAT sensor, go back to the image, and then click this to make it big again, and then 5. But it doesn't even tell you what any of these values are. Like a GM will say low reference, you know, whatever that's supposed to be. It doesn't tell you. It does not tell you. So I checked here, because this goes to a ground, and that is grounded. I checked here, and we have a ground, and I checked my positive voltage. I think it was it was this black-red wire, positive, getting that. And I'm also showing a ground on one of these other wires here. This gray-black, I'm showing a ground, because that goes in here and goes straight to ground. And these two are the signal wires, or these 3, and it saw when I unplugged all those 3, it lost the MAF and IAT sensor. So that tells me that the wiring's good. All right. And I'm not getting an error code for the MAF or the IAT. So whoever replaced that, I think, was trying to fix this barometric pressure sensor error, probably. Okay, so here's one of the articles I was reading. He's getting a P2229, which is what I'm getting. The pressure sensor voltage is more than 5.1 volts for 19 seconds or longer. 1 driving cycle detection logic. Sounds like your barometric pressure sensor is possibly defective. Unfortunately, it is built into the ECU, and it is not replaceable as a separate part. If defective, you'll need a new ECU. Be forewarned, they are really expensive. Yeah, that like box that's under the door for the evap solenoid or whatever, that's not on this car. So that's probably for an older one, probably a different code. Everything I'm finding about this 2229 error says it is the ECU. So the question is, does that cause the ABS module problems? Or do we have a bad ABS module? We check powers and grounds. All we can do is check the CAN buses on it and make sure they're working. I imagine they are, because I lose communication between the ECM and the BCM when I unplug the ABS module. But I guess we'll get the scope out and just check that real quick. Alright, so we are hooked up to the BCM CAN bus. I have my red and blue wires going to the Pico. I have them grounded. And then I have the red and blue. The blue's going to the CAN high and the red's going to the CAN low. And we see here, we have a good CAN signal. You know, they're mirroring each other just perfectly, so there's a good CAN bus there. So now we'll check the CAN bus going to the ECM next. Okay, so now I'm hooked to the ECM one, and it's perfect as well. So we have good communications. I don't know, folks. I do not know. There is not enough theory of operation information on this car to tell me anything about this. There just isn't. And it's kind of a dead car. I mean, it just, they don't currently have dealerships support anything. They just don't. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell them. I'm going to mount those ABS wires up underneath and call it most likely a bad ECM, but I can't confirm that. And, it's going to take somebody that knows more about Suzukis than me. I'm going to move on to the next one so I can make some money. But this one's kind of crazy. But, I mean, we've confirmed the CAN bus is working. The map sensor, barometric pressure sensor, or the map sensor and the intake air temperature sensor is working. Has good wiring. And the barometric pressure sensor appears to be built into the ECM. I think that the ABS module sees an ECM code and it starts disabling the ABS and traction control and all that stuff. And until you fix that ECM, that code in that module isn't going to go away. And I don't know if it listens to the airbag module or any of that stuff too. I just don't know. There's no theory of operation on this car that I can look up and find. Forum information is somewhat sketchy, right? So I just don't think this is one that's going to get fixed. I just don't think it is. But I gave it a shot anyway. Move on to one I can make some money on. All right.